All right, so now let's talk about these infectious disease causing agents in detail. See, in our last video, we talked about, just a minute. Well, in our last video, we did talk about some pictures. We discussed some pictures of the viruses and protozoa and bacteria. Then we talked about how penicillin, how this peptic ulcer disease, and discuss about this Nobel Prize, these two scientists. All right, how they got this treatment of antibiotics for peptic ulcer disease. Now let's talk about these infectious disease causing agents in detail. So some common examples of disease caused by viruses. So first, if we talk about virus, then these they are unicellular organism, and they are the reasons for common cold, influenza, dengue fever, and AIDS, like this. Okay. Now, so viruses can cause these diseases. Then disease like typhoid fever, cholera, tuberculosis, and anthrax are caused by bacteria. All right. So viruses can cause common cold, influenza, dengue fever, AIDS, and bacteria can cause disease like typhoid fever, cholera, tuberculosis, that is TB, okay, then anthrax. So these are the disease caused by bacteria. Then there are some skin infections caused by different kinds of fungi also. See, I told you that viruses is not only single virus, okay, there are different types of viruses. Then even bacteria, there are different types of bacteria are there. All right. Then if we talk about protozoa microbes, they can cause many familiar disease like malaria, kala azar. All right. Then we have this intestinal worm infections. So they are caused by worm, right? They are multicellular organism. So as well as disease like elephantiasis also caused by the different species of worms. So elephantiasis is, thickening of the skin, and that's why the name is such, elephantiasis. So even the cells of the skin gets thick in this worm infection. All right. So these are some of the diseases caused by these microbes, right? Now the question here is, why is it important that we think of these categories on infectious agents? Why do we have to know that which disease is caused by which infectious agent? See, the answer is simple. See, these categories are important factors in deciding what kind of treatment to use. Means if we know the category of infectious agents, then it becomes very easy to find out the treatment, of course, right? So see, members of each one of these groups, like maybe by bacteria, virus, and so on, they have many biological characteristics in common. So they have some, see, they are organisms, right? These microbes, they are organisms. So even they have their biological characteristics. And if we know their biological characteristics, then it becomes very easy for doctors to treat the patients, right? Now, let's look at this in detail now. See, basically what happens is all viruses live inside the host cells, right? Virus live inside the host cells, whereas bacteria very rarely do. See, viruses, when they are outside, they are not active at all. As soon as the moment they enter the body of the living being, or let's say human being, then they become very active, and then they start doing their work, and the patient would feel discomfort. Okay, so all viruses live inside host cells, because outside they are not active, right? They are as good as dead cells. So, but bacteria, they don't do that, okay? So how the different types of microbes act differently, that is what we are talking about now. Then viruses, bacteria, and fungi, they multiply very quickly, whereas worms multiply very slowly, because they are multicellular organisms, right? And bacteria, fungi, viruses, they are unicellular organisms. So just try to understand the link like this. so that you don't have to learn, just understand why they are so. Now, all these bacteria, they are very closely related to each other than to viruses and vice versa. Means bacteria are closely related, all right? Whereas viruses, they are not so closely related to each other. So basically, the bacteria, the structure, their organization, the system of organizing things are such that taxonomically is that the process of or system of organizing things into different groups. So taxonomically, bacteria are closely related to each other compared to viruses. All right. This means that many important life processes are similar in bacteria group. Okay, see here they are telling that bacteria are closely related, means the life processes are similar in the bacteria group. So whatever the bacteria are coming into the category of bacteria, their life processes are similar but are not shared with the virus group. But it is not same with the virus group, right? Because they have different organization. Okay, they have different structure, right? Now, drugs that block one of these life processes in member of the group is likely to affect against many other members of the group. All right, the same drug will not work against a microbe belonging to a different group. So it's not like that if you are suffering from some disease which is because of the bacteria, then naturally the treatment of the disease like caused because of the virus will not work in bacteria, and vice versa, right? For example, here let's look at this with example like antibiotic. You know, they commonly block the biochemical pathway of that is important for bacteria. See, what happens is these bacteria, they make a cell wall to protect themselves. All right, we know that bacteria is a disease causing agent, and these bacteria, they make a cell wall to protect themselves. Now, this antibiotic named penicillin, it blocks this process of building the cell wall. Now, this penicillin is blocking this process of building the cell wall. As a result, these bacteria become unable to make the cell wall. And because they are not able to make the cell wall, they die easily. So, we can say that penicillin is working for this bacteria. Penicillin is what? It's an antibiotic. So, antibiotics can work to kill the bacteria, right? So, penicillin, so now the thing is human cells don't make cell wall anyway. So, penicillin cannot have such an effect on us. So, see, does it happen that if we take antibiotic, our human being cells stop building, stop generating? No, because penicillin affect only on bacteria. It doesn't affect us, human being, okay? Adversely, I mean. So penicillin will have this effect on any bacteria that use such processes, making cell wall. ऐसे कोई भी बैक्टीरिया होते हैं जो सेल वॉल बनाते हैं, उन सब पर पेनिसिलिन अफेक्ट करेगा, राइट? और पेनिसिलिन क्या है? एंटीबायोटिक है. Now, many antibiotic work against many species of bacteria rather than simply working against one. So, इस तरह से antibiotic काम करते हैं. See, basically what we need to understand here is that viruses, पहले हमने बैक्टीरिया की बात की जिसमें पेनिसिलिन काम करता है. अभी वायरसेस होते हैं, they don't use these pathways. वो ये सब बिल्डिंग वॉल, सेल वॉल बनाने का काम नहीं करते. Okay, so that's the reason why antibiotics don't work against viral infection. एंटीबायोटिक्स का काम क्या है? सेल वॉल को बनाने से रोकना. सेल वॉल कौन बनाता है? बैक्टीरिया. इसलिए एंटीबायोटिक्स बैक्टीरियल डिजीज में काम आते हैं. ओके, वायरस से रिलेटेड डिजीज में एंटीबायोटिक्स काम नहीं आते, राइट? So, see, what happens is, if we have common cold and taking antibiotic doesn't reduce the severity or the duration of the disease. So सिर्फ कॉमन कोल्ड होता है तो एंटीबायोटिक्स लेने से काम नहीं चलता, बट फिर भी डॉक्टर्स हमें कभी कभी एंटीबायोटिक्स दे देते हैं. क्यों? बिकॉज सम टाइम क्या होता है कि ये जो कॉमन कोल्ड है वो कभी कभी बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन और वायरल कोल्ड दोनों साथ में हो जाते हैं, राइट? सो कोल्ड की तो दवाई नहीं होती, वो अपने आप ठीक हो जाता है इन सच केस. बट क्या होता है, ये जो बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन हुआ होता है जो कि वायरल कोल्ड के साथ हुआ होता है, उसमें एंटीबायोटिक्स काम करती है सिर्फ बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन पे. इवन देन द एंटीबायोटिक विल वर्क ओनली अगेंस्ट बैक्टीरियल पार्ट ऑफ द इन्फेक्शन एंड नॉट द वायरल पार्ट ऑफ द इन्फेक्शन. सो इन अ नटशेल, what here they are trying to tell you is that sometime viral infection happens along with the bacterial infection. जब हम एंटीबायोटिक्स लेते हैं, कोई भी एंटीबायोटिक्स, तब क्या होता है, ये जो एंटीबायोटिक हैं वो बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन पे काम करता है और इसलिए हमें लगता है कि हम ठीक हो रहे हैं, और फिर थोड़े टाइम के बाद ये जो वायरल इन्फेक्शन है वो अपने आप चला जाता है, राइट? सो दिस इज हाउ एक ट्रीटमेंट दूसरे में काम नहीं आ सकती. इसलिए आपको बोला जाता है कि किसी एक पेशेंट की दवाई दूसरे पेशेंट को नहीं लेनी चाहिए, राइट? सो बेसिकली इस तरह से ये जो ट्रीटमेंट है वो पता चलती है हमें कि बिकॉज हमें अगर वायरसेस के बारे में, ये जो माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स हैं, कोई भी पैथोजेंस हैं, डिजीज कॉजिंग एजेंट्स हैं, अगर उनके बायोलॉजिकल मैकेनिज्म के बारे में हमें पता होता है तो उनको हमें कैसे हैंडल करना है, टैकल करना है, वो भी पता चल जाता है. और इसीलिए डिजीज का जानना, मतलब वो उसका कॉज जानना बहुत जरूरी है. Once we know the immediate cause of the disease, then it becomes easy for the doctors to treat the patients accordingly. And then doctors can treat the patient, with the proper line of treatment. All right? So, जैसे हमने देखा कि बैक्टीरिया को सेल वॉल बनाने की आदत होती है, जबकि वायरस को ऐसी आदत नहीं होती है. तो इसीलिए बैक्टीरिया को एंटीबायोटिक से ट्रीट किया जाता है, बिकॉज एंटीबायोटिक देने से सेल वॉल बनाने का ये जो प्रोसेस है वो बंद हो जाता है. फिर बैक्टीरिया खुद को प्रोटेक्ट नहीं कर पाते एंड देन दे डाई एंड पेशेंट्स गेट ट्रीटेड अकॉर्डिंगली, राइट? सो इस तरह से इन माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म का हमें उनकी मतलब उनकी जो मैकेनिज्म है वो जानने से हम प्रॉपर ट्रीटमेंट कर सकते हैं, राइट? नाउ इन आवर नेक्स्ट सेशन वी विल टॉक अबाउट मीन्स ऑफ स्प्रेड. Okay,